Hi, my name is Dr. Lori Yankura, and I'm one of the principal investigators of the Grandcares Project. And today, along with my friend Don Rumabaoa, we're going to talk about the middle generation of grandfamilies. So on behalf of our entire team from Colorado State University and the University of Hawaii at Manoa, I'd like to welcome you. We are glad you're here. We will first acknowledge our funder, the United States Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Children, Youth, and Families at Risk Sustainable Community Projects for their support of their webinar, and Ruth Wilson for her technical assistance with recording and posting it. First, I'm going to start with telling you a little bit about the Grandcares Project, the overall project. It's got 3 objectives. The first is to focus on grandparent self-care. We are doing this by offering the powerful tools for caregivers, a 6-week class for grandparents to promote self-care practices and stress reduction techniques while connecting them to community resources. If you're not familiar with Powerful Tools for Caregivers, please go to powerfultoolsforcaregivers.org. The second part of our project is to address the needs of grandchildren. We've created a 6-week course to build self-care and leadership skills among 9 to 12 years old. And the third part is this right here, to create webinars for service providers with the hope of increasing the ability of the provider's strength-based approaches to effectively support resilience in grandfamilies. So that's a little bit what we're doing today. So the purpose of this specific webinar is to recognize how the middle generation is present in grandfamilies. And I've got here a revolving door, because often this relationship is characterized by a revolving door. The children's parents, which we'll sometimes call the middle generation, come in and out of their children's lives. And as you can imagine, this can place a lot of stress on the families. One way to think about it is in terms of this diagram here. This model portrays communication and the exchange of resources between a traditional 3-generation family. There's the grandparent on top, the grandchild on the left, and the parent on the right. And you see that they're all connected by those lines, represent communication and resources. Things can be a little bit different in grandfamilies. In these families, the middle generation is absent. The children's parents sometimes are gone due to situations such as death and military deployment. So that middle generation is physically gone. And in that case, our diagrams often look like this. The links between the parent, that middle generation, can be missing. So grandchildren, it might be missing between the grandchild and the parent, or in that case, the parent and their own child, or the grandparent and that parent. And thus the family doesn't function as smoothly as before. Or in other cases, the middle generation might not exactly be physically absent, but they cannot act as parents to their children. So reasons for this often include alcoholism, addiction, incarceration, mental illnesses. So in these cases, the relationship is more ambiguous and can even often look like this. You see, sometimes the families might be isolated, as identified by Goodman's model. The only link is between the grandparent and the grandchild. And then in some cases, it might even be disconnected. That family doesn't have any links to share communication and resources. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn the webinar over to Dawn, who's going to tell a story of a mother in the middle generation and how she, well, I won't give it away. I'll let her tell you the story. Dawn?
One mother associated with GrandCares was conflicted about doing the right thing. Without any form of support in a seemingly impossible situation, she was having a difficult time not only taking care of her child, but also taking care of herself, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Allowing her child to be placed with her mother-in-law was one of the most difficult things she had ever done, especially since the relationship between the two was already strained. Her husband was battling drug addiction, which further strained all relationships. In spite of the difficult relationship, the young mother knew that having her child live with the grandparent who loved him was the best choice for her child. She did not know at the time, but that decision would lead them on a road to healing and a path to reconciliation. Looking back over the course of the event, the young mother felt the most sadness for her own parents, who in her mind were struggling with guilt of their own, asking themselves if they had done something wrong in raising her for her to be in this type of situation. The young mother knew it wasn't their fault, she just made bad choices. She hoped at some point they would realize it. The grandchild in the story was injured in a motor vehicle accident, which resulted in massive internal injuries when he was 14 months old. Social services had to step in and do what was best for the child. That is when the grandparents agreed to take care of the child. She knows now how difficult it was for the grandparents because they had to undergo extensive training on how to properly take care of a child with medical conditions on top of all of their other responsibilities. It would be 6 full months after the accident before she would be able to see her child again, which for her was the hardest part. At the beginning of the process, she fought the system, thinking it was unfair. She stopped fighting when someone from Catholic Charities told her, "You can tell them until you are blue in the face, but you won't be able to see your child until you show with your actions that you are making changes that will ensure a safe environment for your child." Understanding this, she started taking the necessary steps to be reconciled with her child. It would take another year before the case would close and reconciliation would happen among all parties. These events happened over 16 years ago, but still have a positive impact in her life. Since that time, the child has made a full recovery, and the strained relationships have transformed into ones of mutual and loving respect that benefit all. With the perspective of time, the young mother understands that having her child receive physical, mental, and emotional care from his grandparents has been one of the greatest gifts of both of their lives. This young mother knows she was blessed because her story has a happy ending for everyone, but understands this doesn't happen for everyone. When asked, "What would you say to grandparents that are raising their grandchildren?" she replies, "It's not your fault. Remember to take care of yourself, because it may be a long road, but you have a chance to make a positive impact in their lives, giving them something their parents are not capable of. You are your grandchild's greatest gift. You can do it. Most importantly, thank you. Thank you for not only your ability, but your willingness to choose to love and support your grandchild in the face of great adversity."
Thank you so much, Dawn. So I guess that brings us to the moral of this webinar, or the central message, is that even if the middle generation is completely out of the picture for grandfamilies, they are still there in some way. Their presence is still felt, and remember this in your work. So this concludes today's webinar, but I'd like to remind you that we have additional webinar topics. If they're not posted now, they will be soon on the GrandCares website. So a list of them here. And then as always, if you have any questions or comments, please contact us. Here's my information on top, Dawn's information on the bottom. And you can also view our project website at grandcares.coloradostate.edu. And then finally, tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Please take 5 or 10 minutes to complete our survey about this webinar and any suggestions for topics you'd like to learn about. Thank you and have a great day. Aloha.